they need to put our name things first so we can see. I almost sat in this seat earlier, too.
I make a motion to close executive session and come back, well, start a regular meeting.
Second.
Aye.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Town of Orangetown Town Board meeting of February 11th, 2025. Ms. Town Clerk, on a roll call.
Councilman Paul Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Jerry Batari.
Here.
Councilman Brian Donahue.
Here.
Councilman Dan Sullivan.
Here.
Supervisor Teresa Kenny.
Here, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so just a quick announcement. We have the 2025 Summer Camp Counselor Job applications are being accepted until Friday, March 14th. You can visit orangetown.com for more information or call the Parks and Recreation Department. We have two presentations. We're going to start with the Black History Month certificate proclamation. So I'm going to read a couple things here. Whereas in 1976, in the year of America's bicentennial, President Gerald Ford declared February as Black History Month to acknowledge and celebrate the contributions of African Americans to the United States. And the declaration of Black History Month has been repeated since then. Whereas in Orangetown, Black history is town history. For over 300 years, the African American residents of the town have contributed to the development of this community, and the following just a few of the many examples. Whereas in 1854, Thomas Pomplin, an African-American resident of Orangetown and member of the present-day Piermont Fire Department, with his fellow firefighters, helped push a hand-drawn water pumper 3 miles to a massive waterfront fire in Nyack. Their action stopped the fire from spreading to other buildings, but Mr. Pomplin unfortunately succumbed to the effects of overheating and exhaustion and is locally recognized as the first line of duty death in Rockland County. I know they're building a statue in his honor. I don't know if it's in Piermont, so... It's done? It's done? That's nice. So there is a statue of him. Do you know where it is in Piermont? Yes, at Flywheel Park. I'm going to have to get over there and see it. I haven't seen it. I know they were doing collections for it, so very nice. Whereas throughout the 1800s, a small community of free African Americans lived in Skunk Hollow, which is now considered present-day Palisades in northern New Jersey. In the 1850s, a plot of land was purchased on Route 340 in Spark Hill for the residents of Skunk Hollow to establish the Old Swamp Church, headed by the former enslaved Reverend William Thompson. In 1897, the church moved several miles to the north and became the St. Charles AME Zion Church, where it still stands today. Whereas many local groups, including the NAACP, the Nyack Center, the Rockland Negro Scholarship Fund, and others strive to improve the lives and opportunities of African Americans living in Orangetown and Rockland County, and now therefore be it resolved, in order to publicly recognize and celebrate the contributions of the African American residents of our town, that the Town Board of the Town of Orangetown hereby proclaims February 2025 as Black History Month in the Town of Orangetown. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to give this probably over to the pastor from St. Charles. Next, we have a presentation from the Hudson Valley I Campus to discuss the potential repurposing of a building as residential use over at the campus over there.
Good evening, Supervisor Kenny, members of the board. My name is Seth Mandelbaum. I'm a partner with the law firm of McCullough, Goldberger, and Stout. Pleased to be here this evening, and thank you for giving us just a few moments of your time to discuss this proposal. Our client is Pearl River Campus, LLC, which is commonly known as the Hudson Valley I Campus over in Pearl River. It's at 401 North Middletown Road. With me this evening are Jamie Schwartz, the president of the Hudson Valley I Campus, and Patrick Cleary, a professional planner who has been retained by the I Campus. Just a little summary overview behind you. We're going to give you a little update on what you may remember, some of you from a couple of years ago, was a proposal to repurpose an empty building known as Building 140 for a potential hotel. The board actually approved a zoning change to allow that on properties in the LI district that are greater than 150 acres, which is a very small universe of properties, for a variety of reasons related to some title issues on the property, as well as the floor plates of the building and the market. Determination has been made to take another look at this and talk to you about the possibility of allowing multifamily on properties over 150 acres, again, in the LI district only. So we're really here just to give you an update, a little bit of an overview. As you may remember, the history of the site goes back to the early 1900s with Letterly Labs. It was purchased by Wyeth and then by Pfizer. Pfizer still has a presence next door to the 207-acre site. And you may remember these views. This is what the campus looked like in 2004. And this is a view today with a lot of empty asphalt. Jamie and his group have done a great job refilling some of the buildings. Some of the buildings were demolished, actually, since 2004 by Pfizer before they sold the property. And the idea here is to take a building that is completely vacant and repurpose it for something that is, Pfizer in particular, is looking for a place for their young professionals to live. It's consistent with the neighborhood, consistent with the surrounding area on a very large campus, set back almost 1,000 feet from Middletown Road. So really, we're here just to give you an update before we actually file a formal petition with this board for an amendment to the zoning to allow this. It would still need to come back to you again for the special permit for a second public hearing, get referred to your planning board, and go through the whole process. All we're talking about tonight is coming back to you with the petition to allow you to consider the change in zoning. With that, I'd like Jamie just to give you a little bit of an update from his perspective, and then Pat Cleary can talk to you a little bit more about the planning rationale for this, what he's seeing in the region, and then we're happy to answer any questions.
Good evening. I'm Jamie Schwartz, and I'm president of Hudson Valley iCampus. So thank you for everybody being here tonight. We were in the process of adaptively reusing Building 140. There's a slide that shows actually where, no, the one that shows, oh, it does, yeah. So that one shows the building. That's a vacant office building. That office building has been vacant for 12 years. Originally, the plan was to to adaptively reuse it as a hotel. Although that would have been okay, the floor plates to fit into that to the building only allowed about 100 to 105 keys. We think that. Also, there was, unbeknownst to me, there was an environmental easement when the closing happened about 10 years ago that the DEC made IRG sign the purchaser, and it covered the whole campus. There are two small areas all in the back towards the train tracks that are affected by it. However, the New York DEC had not responded to the environmental attorneys that we have for 4 years. Now we have.
They're still working from home.
Yeah. So that's bureaucracy at its best. But I've engaged attorneys up in Albany. We look like we're on the goal line of getting that cleared up to be limited to these two small areas. So that was one of the other reasons why we didn't move forward with adaptively reusing Building 140 as a hotel. During that time, we started looking at it and saying, you know what, this fits. This is much better for a residential reuse, and the plan is. And we also talked to all our tenants there. We have Sanofi, which is a major biotech company that does the flu vaccine. We have a company called Momentum Performance Materials. That's actually, I'm in negotiations with them to expand. They rent 70,000 square feet from us. They're a life science company, and of course Pfizer. And they said, you know, housing is very short in this area, especially for the younger people. It's very hard for them. So we started looking at that building, and that converts to a residential use very nicely. It's still an adaptive reuse. It's the same exact building. There would be no, it would be all internal, maybe a little bit of external, but very like de minimis. So that's one thing. So I called up Seth. I said, Seth, let's see if we can talk to the town, and that's why we're here today. It doesn't mean we can't build a hotel, and as you could see, to the right on that picture, that's a huge parking lot. That's I think it's 15 acres or so. So that could be a choice spot from a ground-up hotel, and also because there's a need for new hotels and rooms also in the marketplace. But then we can maximize the rooms. We're not limited to 100, 105. We might be able to do, 120 or 125, and the sizing of the hotel rooms would be appropriate instead of trying to, shoehorn it into an existing large floor plate. So those are some of the considerations why we're here tonight, just to make that presentation to you and let you know and refresh your recollection. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jamie. And just much like any use the board might allow in this building, the hotel use similarly that you approve the zoning on still needs a special permit from this board as well as a separate matter. So everything we're talking about still needs its land use approvals. We're here just to talk about the zoning. And just real quick before Pat comes up, there's the current view, you might remember this, and here's a rendering of what the building would look like. Again, very consistent with the current look of the building.
Thank you, Seth. Patrick Cleary, I'm the principal of Cleary Consulting. So what I'm going to say tonight is obvious. When Jamie went back to think about the options for the property, what could those buildings be used for that are on the site? And the most telling image that I think was presented tonight was the before and after of those parking lots that you saw earlier. The full parking lot 15 years ago and what we have today. The site's underutilized. So how do we make it economically viable? How do we preserve its character? What became obvious was residential housing for the folks that are working on that campus. So as you all know, I don't have to say this, we have a regional housing crisis. Housing prices are unsustainable. That's because we don't have enough supply. So what we were proposing here in the building up on the screen before you is to reutilize that building. When we started to look at it as a residential building, the floor plates that Jamie was referring to earlier that don't work for a hotel work wonderfully to support studios, one-bedrooms, and some two-bedroom units in the building. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about 110 apartments inside the building. The tenants that would occupy that building will likely be the folks that are working on the campus. It wouldn't be restricted in any way, but the logic behind the approach is that the market, the demand for those units will be the folks that are working in those buildings on the campus today. That does several benefits for us. Number one, we're reusing an existing building. That's a great thing. Number two, the folks that are driving to the campus today to work, once they live on the campus, we're reducing traffic on the local roadways because people will be walking across the campus to get to their place of work. The nature of those small units, we're talking about the generation of a half a dozen school kids, maybe 9 school kids from a project like this, a very low school children generation type of project. That's because, again, young professionals, studios, one-bedroom units, not built for families. The existing infrastructure to support a residential unit like this is already in place, so no major upgrades, no major improvements. It's almost a hand and glove, no-brainer type of an operation, small-scale type of residential development that really supports the folks that are working on the campus. So that's sort of the planning rationale behind it. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thanks, Pat. And that is our presentation.
Can I
Happy
just
to
say, I'm
answer
sorry, I
any-
know you said, I think 1 to 2 bedrooms. Do you have like square footage, approximate square footage on those things?
I mean, it's all very preliminary, but Jamie can
Right.
speak to that.
Yes, they would be sort of large, like 800 square foot studios, and one bedrooms would be a little bit larger. It all depends on the mix of the final. This is preliminary. We have an idea, but once we figure out how many units, what the final mix is going to be, but we're thinking, smaller, one bedrooms and a lot more studios as opposed to 3 bedrooms and a lot of 2 bedrooms. So it all depends on the final mix, but like the hotel rooms were going to be 700 to 800 square feet, which are very large for hotel rooms. Just the way it laid out as a floor plate for the floor plates there.
Are they rentals or for sale?
No, rental.
Rental.
Just, it'd be a multifamily rental, not for sale.
And IRG or Hudson, whatever, they would,
We would manage.
you would manage it.
We would, I mean, IRG itself has, they have residential properties in Ohio and all over the country, but we might partner with somebody to do that. I think we'll probably manage it ourselves, though. It's all very preliminary.
Do you know how many people are employed by Pfizer, or what's the need?
Sure. So right now, they have approximately 1,200 people that work there. They you heard of all the cost cutting that Pfizer had done last year. I don't know if you know about that, but they shuttered a bunch of campuses in New Jersey, and I closed a couple, and they actually let go some people from the campus also. But they backfilled it, so that I think they let go of about 230 people, and they backfilled from the other locations 210. So, and they still have they brought a lot of people back. I know your son works there, but they still have some people. They do a hybrid work, so you can work from home, and you also have to come on the campus. So, at any one time, maybe 50% of that is about 800 people from Pfizer, and I think they're starting to bring everybody back. But they have approximately, Pfizer alone has about approximately 1,200 employees on our campus.
Raise one point about uniqueness of Pfizer. A lot of the employees that might work from home, it's hard to work from home when you're a lab technician. So the proximity of working from home across the street from the lab makes a lot of sense from the dynamic of how those business operations work. So again, the proximity to these operations is the winning element in this proposal.
So I will just say, I had taken a tour of the Pfizer campus back in March 2020, literally weeks before we went into shutdown. And they talked about the fact that they had, one of the big issues was housing for their entry-level scientist. They actually, during COVID, they were running buses back and forth to New York City because it was cheap to live in the city. And I recently, when I was at the event over at your thing, I met Steve Bajorson, if I'm saying his name right, and he commented again about the housing and hoping that they were going to have housing, that it would help with their housing needs. But anybody have specific questions? Or? No?
No.
Good, thank you.
I
Okay.
don't think it's much different than a hotel, except that this is less transient.
Right.
People are going to own a share, so.
I also invite, again, anybody who would like a tour of the campus. I'd love to, some of the board members, I know we were trying to make arrangements at one point and it just fell through, but I know Supervisor Kenny came and Rob, I gave them a tour, but I invite everybody, all the other board
Yeah,
members,
I've
please
been
come
to
for a tour.
I'll just say that, in that I would like to see some part of that percentage of the housing, if you are going to do it, if it's even considered, to be employees of Pfizer or somebody at that campus, and or short-term kind of residencies. That's just my opinion.
Short term?
Short-term, year leases, something like that. I don't know what your lease schedule would be like, or something of that nature.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be pretty typical for rental
Yeah,
building.
And again, just that number of employees, some percentage should be dedicated to those people, especially if part of your argument is that there's no housing for your employees, then certainly some portion of that housing should be for your employees,
Well,
right?
it's not their employees. IRG is separate
Well-
from Pfizer.
The campus. The most direct community, which is the campus. How's that?
Okay.
Was there any plans, but any kind of gym or any amenities, or is it just straight?
Yeah, I think we talked about some amenities. Again,
there'd be a fitness room and that kind of stuff. It would be a nice, modern, new residential rental building, but nothing extravagant because it's small. Plus we have some amenities. We have an on-site cafe that's run by Bailey's, the smokehouse. So but nothing extravagant.
What is typical for the market, for this type of facility. So if there are no further questions, hopefully we'll see you back. I'll work with Rob Magrino on our petition, which would have the specifics. We'll try to come up with some proposed criteria for the special permit in addition to the minimum 150 acres in the LI zone, which again, I think if you look at the zoning map, I think that will limit the potential locations for this zoning amendment to apply really anywhere else in town. And we'll look at your other provisions and try to mirror how you've done other zoning amendments to be consistent. And of course, it'll be a process as we're asking you to consider that amendment.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for the time. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the workshop of our agendas, items. We're going, the first, number 3 and 4 are the public, voting on the public hearing, which we closed, so there's no public hearing on it again. So that brings us to number 5, I think. Let me make sure I got them, right? Number 5. So this is just, we have to amend a resolution because we got a grant for shade structures, but we were using the Tapan Park, which is not owned by the town, so they don't want us to use that, so we're taking out the Tapan Park as one of the, for the grant. So it's just amending a previous grant for $75,000 in structures for John McGowan got this for us when he was in the assembly, so for the dog park and stuff, people can sit in the shade. So number 6, we're actually going to combine 7 to 17, but I want to these are all the liaisons to the board. So you guys got this. I hope you had a chance to take a look at it. You are being assigned as a liaison to some of the boards or committees. I'm not going to read them all because it'll go on for quite some time, but if you see on the first page there, it's identifying us. Then number 8, we're reappointing the Blue Hill Golf Advisory Committee. Again, we worked kind of with the liaison and the chairperson to add people who wanted to be added and take people who wanted to come off. We also have number 9, the Orangetown Office of Emergency Management. Then we have number 10, the Environmental Committee. Number 11 is the Orangetown Parks Development Advisory Committee. And these are all for 1-year terms. Number 12, the Orangetown Project Review Committee. Number 13, the Orangetown Senior Citizen Committee. Number 14 is the Orangetown Trade Tree Commission. Number 15 is the Traffic Advisory Board, a thankless job if there has ever been one. Number 16, appointing Joe Brady-Amoon to a member of the Orangetown Board of Assessment Review. That's a 5-year term. And number 17, reappoint Beth Cahill to member of the Orangetown Board of Ethics. Again, that's a 5-year term. Then we have 18, we have authorized the town attorney to sign a settlement. This is on a tax certiorari matter, which number 19 is approve a street light at the intersection of Hunt Road and American Legion Post Road in Orangeburg. And then we have the audit. I'm going to go back to number 3 and 4 because there is no public hearing on this tonight, but obviously everyone who speaks in the regular public comment section, they have 3 minutes, can talk about whatever they want. So I was going to address my comments on this now so that they certainly have a chance to respond. So I'm going to try not to repeat everything that I have said over the last few meetings because it certainly has been quite a lot. But Allison has put the map up here now of the project, the revised project showing the top of there not being developed. But I just want to start, I guess, going back to kind of a basic fact that was just kind of mentioned here, that we are in a severe housing shortage all across the United States and right here in Orangetown. So much so that Rockland County has just recently engaged in a Rockland County Housing Needs Assessment. It's a lot of pages. It's very interesting reading. Much of it does have to do with the affordable component of it, but with that said, there's a lot of really interesting facts in here about why housing is so expensive in Rockland. And I'm just really going to read one paragraph from it, and again, it's over 113 pages, so. But this is the one paragraph that kind of just jumped out at me, talking about how policy dictates housing access. And it says, exceptions aside, which is talking about Nyack and Haverstraw, most municipalities in Rockland County demonstrate resistance to increased density and affordability set-asides and a lack of political will to overcome this resistance. By yielding to this resistance, elected officials fail to represent the long-term needs of their constituents, considering the fact that increased housing access is imperative to retain strong workforce and nurture a vital economy. So that's the one line. Trust me, there's plenty you could read in here. I would urge anyone who's interested to take a read. So at the first public hearing on this matter, I raised serious issue facing Orangetown, which is a slow and steady decrease in our population. It's very real. And likewise, it's resulting in a dramatic decline in our youth population, down by 11%. And this number was like actually picked up by media, how dramatic our youth reduction was, which is resulting in significant decreases in the school enrollment in South Orangetown and Pearl River School District. So there's chart 1, Allison, I don't know if you have it there. So this you can see, on this chart, you can see the school enrollment figures. The highlighted in yellow is the latest high, and then in the green is the lowest in students. So Pearl River down 500, South Orangetown down 700 from their highs, and you can see the years that they were high in. But the graph, I think, is even more disturbing. You see the kind of the population going down, and this actually has a prediction going out to 2028, and it continues to decline. So we had a population of over 53,000 back in the 70s, and we're down to 48,000 now, and per this, we're just headed in the same direction. So everyone in this room should be alarmed by this. Schools will start closing, things will start changing. I think we all need to be aware of this. And then add to this other information, the housing chart, which I presented in the last meeting, which I think bears revisiting. Allison, chart 2, which basically talks about the number of houses that we've created in the last 3 years in Orangetown. Unincorporated Orangetown. To be very clear, this is not the villages, because I pull them out because they have their own housing and things like that. So you can see that there was 9 permits in 2024, 2 of which were for knocking down pre-existing homes, 7 in 2023, 1 of which was rebuilding after a fire, and 14 in 2022, 3 of which were knockdowns of pre-existing homes. So we've created 24 new single-family homes in the town of Orangetown in the last 3 years. And then I added the multifamily, which are the rentals all up here on the road up here. So in a town which currently has approximately 13,800 housing units outside of the village, what the housing we've created is less than 0.02%. And I just point this all out because there is this, mantra that there's just overdevelopment, and I think we need to rely upon data before we start throwing those words around. So accepting all of this information as very factual, the question for all of you is, how is this board supposed to address this problem of a housing shortage when a project like this, with only 13 single-family homes in a residential zone, faces such objection? Worse yet, some of those complaining the loudest live in this very same zone. Those in the R15 are complaining that R15 is too dense. So now I've heard the arguments that the houses are not going to be affordable, and that's true. By most of our standards, it may not be affordable. But I do believe that people currently living in smaller homes will move up. Their smaller home will become a starter home for somebody else, just like I did when I moved to Orangetown. I bought a little ranch across town, and then when I could afford a bigger house, I moved into my house. So, yeah, again, affordable, as Jerry says, is however you define affordable. And by these standards, these homes are somewhat affordable when you start looking around the county. I want to quickly turn to the legality of the zone change, and I don't see Wayne Gavioli here, but I do. In the last few meetings, he's mentioned this lawsuit and that he's represented the town, that he's won. And all truthful. I'm not saying that it was not true. He did bring a lawsuit on behalf of the town, but it did convince me to pull out the original file and look at the zone change, which was from an R40 to an R80, and covered hundreds of acres, including the Kaufman Campgrounds, Manhattan Woods, a whole bunch of properties. And after reviewing the file and reading the case, I'm confident that this board's approval of the zone change, presuming it happens, and I don't want to ever presume anything because I'm speaking for myself at this moment, is both legal and consistent with the previous litigation. First, what I found interesting is one of the stated reasons why the board did the zone change back in the 1988 was they were worried about too much housing and the population going up, which would turn the decrease in demand for public schools, police, and fire protection. The complete opposite of what we're dealing with today. So when somebody said to me they didn't know if looking at school enrollment was appropriate, I would say that the town board back in 1988 did just that. They were worried about the schools being burdened. And the case that Mr. Gavioli references is not about whether R40 or R80 is right. The court never decides that. It's about whether the town board specified the benefits of the zone change and made a reasoned elaboration. And the court held back then that it was discretionary zoning and that it was not arbitrary and capricious. And that's exactly what is happening with this board now. There's nothing arbitrary and capricious about this. I quickly want to dispel the narrative that if we grant this zone change, it sets a precedent that we have to give all R40s or petitions for zone changes to R15. That's just not legally true. As the town board has no obligation ever to even accept a petition for a zone change. The gentleman that was just up here, they could give us a zone change. I could throw it in the garbage. There's no legal reason that we have to accept a zone change. And then just a couple of other few things that I think are important to note that this board has considered in evaluating this thing. The applicant has agreed to deed back approximately 1 acre of land to the town for flood mitigation and open space, sparing the wetlands, which if he didn't get his own change, he'd be within his rights to develop. So, you know, it's basically saving, for lack of a better word, the wetlands from development. The applicant will be required to construct a detention basin and other flood mitigation measures, which will be given rigorous review by our engineering department, and which will address the current flooding problems that I hear persist in that area right now. So we'll hopefully address some of the flooding that we have. Now, I'm not here to advocate for Mr. Lane. He's an experienced business person that knew exactly what he was buying. But the reality is that he has paid almost $600,000 in taxes over the last 3 years. Allison, you have the next chart? Add to that what he paid for the land, and it's naive of any of us to think that this zone change, if not approved, that he's not going to sell it or develop it, consistent what a use that is permitted by right, some of which we simply can't ignore. And that's chart 4. Allison, if you want to. And there you go. Those are the uses that are allowed by right. So whether it's a school, a library, or a place of worship, or any other uses on the chart, we risk the property coming off the tax rolls. Notably, I don't know if any of you saw it, the town of Clarkstown is going through this right now. The owner of a 6.5 acre parcel in an R40 zone is looking to construct a private school, which is permitted as of right. And the neighbors are concerned about the noise and the fumes the school buses will create on their local roads. I suspect that most of those neighbors would prefer the single-family homes to that use. So with all that said, this is the hardest part of my job, voting for something that I know is going to make some residents unhappy. Truthfully, the easy thing for me to do would be to vote no. But for all the reasons I just stated, I honestly believe that approving this zone change is the right thing to do for the town as a whole. By adding to our housing stock, keeping the property on the tax rolls, adding students to the South Orangetown School District, and preserving an acre of land that would otherwise be developed for open space, I will be voting yes on this tonight. And on that note, unless anybody else has anything to say, we can go to the...
No, I'd like to say my piece too, so that people can respond, because I think it's only fair, because sometimes the way these meetings are done, I don't get a chance to speak until you're done, and then sometimes it's way after you're done, and a lot of people aren't even listening to what we have to say. This is in my backyard. My kids' friends, they live up and down these streets. They grew up on these streets. I know many, many of these residents. This was a very hard conclusion to come to, but I have to weigh everything and the entire town when I make my decisions. I did take into account what happened in Clarkstown, because it's almost the exact same size piece of property. It's a 6.6 acre piece of property, and it's zoned R40. People are telling us to zone it R40. R40 has the same regulations as R80. Grouped together, this is big enough to add on any one of the permitted uses that Allison had up here for the R80. In Clarkstown, they're planning on constructing a 31,428 square foot private school for 420 students, 51 parking spaces, 12 bus parking spaces, and 20 extra parking spaces, all permitted by right. Meaning, there's no way to stop them. It's gonna happen. There's nothing they can do to stop them. So I'm not a gambling man. I don't think it's worth taking the gamble to say, no, we're not permitting you to do this, Mr. Lane. Either find something else, because he's been to us with other ideas and concepts of things he would like to do with this property. And every time he's been to me particularly, I said, no. Blauvelt is a single-family home residential area. We have no multifamily in Blauvelt. We have no garden apartments in Blauvelt. I was the one who stood up strong for our comprehensive plan, saying I wanted to represent what we are, and that's a single-family home area. He came back with a reasonable proposal. And I think it's a reasonable proposal that will protect this property for the future. Instead of leaving it on an unknown, I'm charting its course. It's only going to be 13 houses forever. If I take a gamble and say no, who knows what's going to happen with the property? And is it worth that gamble? To me, it's not worth that gamble. To me, I'd rather protect the property for my kids, for my grandkids, for myself. And it's a hard decision, because I got a lot of good friends who made a lot of calls to me and told me how much they were against this zone change. But for the entire town, it's the right choice to say yes. Like Teresa said, the easy thing for me to do is say no. Good luck, Mr. Lane. Do whatever you got to with your property. I'm scared to whatever that could be. We are dictating the way this zoning will be, and we're protecting this property for generations to come. So I, like Teresa, will be voting yes on this.
Sorry, if there's going to be any other comment, I'm going to recuse myself, because I already have. So.
Right.
So I was on the fence earlier. I've gotten a lot of calls, just as Paul has and the rest of the board. Unfortunately, a large percentage of our time is protecting properties like this. We've done a lot behind the scenes. The board's done a great job. I think, again, what Paul had said, what's going on in Clarkstown, what's going on in South Nyack, and what this property is zoned for, this is the best option. This is the best option. I think it's somewhat reasonable. R40, R15, there's probably a difference of 4 houses, maybe 5, but this is the most responsible thing the board can decide on, and I'll be voting yes as well.
Like Paul, I live in Blauvelt. I've lived there since 1985. My kids grew up there. My children live in Blauvelt. Well, one of them does. The other two, one in Tapan, one in Piermont. Affordable housing. Affordable housing was a terrible word years ago, and everybody thought it was going to be townhouses, apartment buildings, and so on and so forth. Well, down the block from me, I guess it's from the Bronx, so the block is what I call it. But it developed little by little as it went, and they're all R15. We're on a third of an acre. I have young families. I have young families moving in, and how they do it, I don't know. I don't know if I could have done it at that. But I think they're getting married later. They're moving away, and they're coming back, and there's kids on my block again. There's young children that are growing. My grandkids come over. They're there, and they're playing on the street with other kids. So I think there's a need for it. It's single-family homes, and I just see a nice neighborhood coming together with the young people coming and being able to live in Blauvelt. And then years from now say that, hey, it was a great place to grow up. So I will be voting yes.
Okay. Okay. two? Okay. Sorry about that. My screen like kind of is blinking, but whatever. I think something that Paul had pointed out once in the past was that the two top lots are big enough to be in R22s. They're much big, the two, I don't know if it's.
Coming off Elmsworth.
No, the top
These
of,
up here, yeah.
yeah, are like,
And so is this.
so R15 is the minimum size, but these two are actually a bit bigger. They, right, you can't, my thing's blinking, so I can't see.
Yeah, I think the thing we really have to consider, all of us, is that something is going to happen. It's just not going to stay vacant land. Somebody owns it. Somebody pays taxes on it. I wish it would stay vacant land. I wish that was the way it is. That's not the way it is. Like Teresa said, from 1998 till now, Mr. Lane's been paying taxes on it. So he's just not going to donate it to the town. So something is going to happen. And I think this is the least of something.
And I also think it's worth noting that to the west, there's 50 acres of undeveloped land that the water company owns. And they own more property going up too. They own quite a bit, but anyway. Okay, so if nobody else has anything else, I'm going to take a motion to open the public comment portion.
I make a motion to open the public comment.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this is the regular public comment, so it's 3 minutes. The first one that is signed up is Yasmin Dahar.
And again, you can talk on any topic, including this or what we said.
Evening, everyone. Yasmin Dar, South Nyack. I wanted to know if there was an update regarding the, if you remember from last meeting, I brought up the municipal bus service that is operating on the single-lane roads in South Nyack. I have noticed a slight decrease in the golf cart activity, which I appreciate if that was at a town directive. The municipal bus service continues to be an issue. I heard from OPD that there was a meeting regarding, and I would appreciate some update. And I know it seems and I'm going to be quick because I'm sure other people, I want to be respectful of other people here, but I know it seems somewhat, maybe minor to some people, but it's interesting to have to manage my life around giant buses that come down these single-lane roads. I don't think anyone's disputing having a bus pull up at the main side of a campus. The middle school's right there. There's school buses there pulled over on the side of roads. I don't think anyone thinks that's an issue. I think that's perfectly fine. Even today, coming home from work, after I've worked all day and all night on call, I get to my single-lane road. There are 2 municipal buses, 2 school buses blocking my way to my house, idling. I waited 10 minutes as they unloaded 100 people, still sitting there. I respectfully don't honk because I'm a polite person. I got out of my car, I went to the first bus, and nothing. I'm, waving. It's very frustrating to have to sit there for 15 minutes just to get to my house. It's frustrating to have floodlights on the top of every single building that light up my entire backyard, shine into my bedroom, but more importantly, my 2-year-old son's bedroom. There's no amount of blackout curtains that you can purchase that can block football stadium lighting. And I've called the building inspector about it. I'm told to call OPD anytime I see the buses idling. Realistically, OPD has better things to do. I mean, it's a waste of resources for something. I still don't even understand how a bus service was approved. I'm not even sure it was approved, and I appreciate some comment on that. Makes me question the town code. I mean, the rules are set there for a reason. I'm supposed to abide by the rules. I would have to call 4 people to cut a tree down in my yard that I pay for, that I pay taxes on, that I own. If the optics are there's 2 sets of rules for 2 groups of people, and I just don't think that's fair. The rules are there for everybody. I didn't make them. We all agreed this is how we want to live. We should all be following them. Thank you.
Just a quick update. The meeting with the school is tomorrow, so they haven't had it yet with the police department, and we are going to follow up on the buses. But I think, as I said in email, I don't know if are you on the email? That there's someone else emailing about the buses. Is that? Okay. Yeah, so we've never been asked to approve a bus route before, so and we never have, so I'm gonna have to, get in touch with the DOT and try to figure out what's happening with the buses. And again, we never had the ability to say no, but we've, never said yes, so we have to follow up with DOT. It looks like there's a lot of finger pointing on that, but they're gonna start with a meeting with the school. They have been receptive to most of our issues, so we'll one step at a time, but we didn't forget, put it that way.
And the meeting will be about the buses and the golf carts.
And the golf carts. Next is Henry Wemmer from Blauvelt.
Henry Wemmer, Blauvelt. I understand with the property, and it was bought, and he sat on it for a long period, so we're going to leave that alone. It's been hit enough. But my two things are this rain detention pond. I look at the one by the Knights, by Monsignor Brady and Erie Street. That has been totally ungroomed of any way, shape, or form, I believe, since it was put in. My friend's mom and dad live on that road. One passed and the other's out since. And it's a disaster. There's another one on Western Highway and Independence, looks the same way. It's a horror show. And if it's going to be donated to the town, who pays for it? I don't want to pay for it, especially if it's going to look like that. It doesn't benefit me. Sorry that I'm not amusing you. And the other thing, it was stated with the flooding at Lieber and Western Highway, that they would pay for it 100%. Can we have that in writing, that it won't go against the town and or the state, that they're going to miraculously clear this water issue that's been there the 30 years that I'm around, that's going to be taken care of on their dime, correct?
When you're done
That's
with
about it.
Okay.
Those are my two biggest points, because I know where it's going, we all do.
That's what we tried to, I don't know about the detention basins.
We take care of it.
We do.
The retention basin,
The detention bases.
Do we maintain the detention basins like the one on Erie Street?
on Erie
right over
Street
near
behind
Jerry's
Joe
house?
Moore's,
If they're deeded to the town, yes. That maintenance is not like taking care of lawns, it's making sure it functions.
Okay.
So we keep this open, if there's blockages in there, we remove it. That's basically. I can't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Henry, he said that the town does maintain it, but it's not like maintaining your front lawn. All they do is make sure that it does its job. If there's debris in it or something blocking it, that they clean it out so that it
Continues to
holds the
function,
water,
right.
so it continues to function.
So an acre of aesthetics means nothing. That's brutal. Go look at it.
Okay.
Drive by it. I drive by it every day. Hear what you say. Take an extra
Oh,
look.
I don't even know where it is. I'm gonna have to drive by it. Okay, James McCaffrey?
Good evening. Thanks for this opportunity to speak again. I am opposed to this change of zoning. I've made my discussions before about the water drainage, the beauty of the area, the trees. Of course, that's not that consequential, but it is to put in more housing. Please, we are up to our eyeballs in traffic in this town. And if you say that there's a loss of student population in this town, try getting in or out of any of these streets, Western Highway or Van Wyck Road, during drop-off or pickup or delivery of children. It's insane. It's like Broadway. You go down to Manhattan and drive in Broadway, it's like that now. You want to increase the population? Really? Put up major housing somewhere else. Put up, put up apartments like you want to do in Pearl River.
Of course, not in my backyard. Put it in Pearl River.
Yes.
Gotcha.
It's where it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying Pearl
Thank
River,
you
I'm
for
sorry,
being
but
so, thank you for being so
Letterly,
obvious.
the Letterly property, the Pfizer property.
That's Pearl
Okay, there's a
River.
lot of property there. These people have a pretty good idea. I mean, over here, Western Highway is a nightmare, really. In downtown and even getting out of town to go to West Nyack. You're going to put more housing up there? I'm sorry, I just oppose that. I mean, maybe scale it down to R40, R80, put a few houses, fine. But as far as children in this place, there's always a recycling of children and students. We know that. We've all been here for years. It's not so many this year. Next year, they have a large class. It's the way it goes. Well, your study says differently, but
Yeah, my numbers say
your
different,
numbers.
which, by the way, are not mine. They're from the school district. I
Well,
took them
the
right
school
from the school district.
We pay enough to the school district already.
Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Francis Clements?
Francis Clements, Blauvelt, New York. I live on Sunset Road. Everybody knows who I am. So basically, this whole procedure was a waste of our time. You guys were rubber stamping this right from the get-go. So you guys took a look at this piece of property in this plan and said, yeah, this is a good idea. I know all the peripherals around it, and I built my home just a few blocks away from there. I watched my father-in-law jump through hoops. My father-in-law got up and spoke in front of the town board, Arbor Court, everything. He was a builder in this town, and he explained everything he was going to do. So we took a look at this, and we said, gee whiz, that stuff on Ellsworth, that looks good. Let's build on Ellsworth. Let's put driveways on the old Western. There's got to be another, I'm not an engineer, but there's got to be another kind of plan that we could not build anything on Ellsworth, make everything go off in one road onto Western Highway, put a traffic light there. No one's thinking outside the box. I keep hearing you talk about affordable housing. You want to make affordable housing? What about the pieces of property we had in Japan a number of years back, which we took over, the Army housing, and made that affordable? How about offering the homes to first responders, to veterans, to police officers, firefighters in the county, the town, the state? Was that even thought of? I never heard anybody mention that, right? And I get it. People want to build stuff, and I'm not against putting stuff in there. But there's got to be another kind of design, another kind of redistricting for it. I mean, I get it. Maybe build 11 homes instead of 13, right? And what else are we going to do with the property? I hear, well, we could put religious schools and libraries there. Did the town ever think about buying the property? I mean, the county just bought 21 acres in Clarkstown, right, with the money they were given. And none of these other suggestions, I never heard anybody suggest any of this. So our time was wasted. You've rubber stamped the whole thing. And it's a shame, it really is, that you're just going to jam this down everybody's throat. And how would you like it if they built it in your backyard? Now, I know you guys live in the area. I know Paul and Jerry live in Blauvelt, and we see each other and stuff. But how would you like it was right in your backyard? How about if the builder, somebody said next to him, and built it right in his backyard? How about in Donald Brenner's backyard? Right? So that's all I have to say about it. But anyway, thank you for the time.
Okay, that's the only person, anyone that signed, let me try that again. That's the only people that signed up. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak that has not had a chance? I'm sorry, right after, right, no, go ahead, you can go. Just again, if you don't mind saying your name and then.
Okay, thank you, Liz Dudley in Orangeburg. I just wanted to follow with what he said. I do think we need to start thinking outside the box with development. We seem to be behind the 8 ball. When we are looking to develop, when we did the comprehensive plan, we didn't attack a lot of the problems around warehouses. And I know that's really leading to a lot of the traffic problems. I'm not really well versed on this, but I just wanted to check if the neg deck has been approved. Seeker has been done. We have a lot of water issues, and to just keep building, I don't think it's going to help fix those. And that's it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Macy, and I live in Blauvelt, and I grew up for part of my life, as I said last time, right next door. You make really valid points, and it's clear what you guys are planning to do. I mean, I think there is a facility that you don't love that it has to be developed. And I totally take your point, a really good one about being rezoned to R40 and having more mansions built. Like, I don't want that either. I guess I wish there was a little bit more of a spirit of compromise. You know, R22, maybe that makes more sense, and maybe that is more in keeping with the character of the town. Feels like that might have been appropriate to talk about. And I wish I'd brought it up sooner. And that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else who has not already had talked that would like to say something? Okay. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're going to go ahead. Majority. Yep. There's 5, but we have 1 recused himself.
We have 4 votes.
So 3. We need, yeah. We have 3. Normally with the county, you have need 4 to override, but the Rockland County Planning Board did not make any comments that need to be overridden, so we only need a majority. Okay, can I get a motion to close?
I make a motion to close the public.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So just to kind of address some of the comments that were made, you know, with thinking outside the box. I don't know if you were here when we started about the repurposing of the building over at the Pfizer campus. We have looked at the Blue Hill Plaza office, convert that to some. Like, we have definitely been open to thinking outside the box. Because if you're repurposing buildings, you're not cutting down trees and you're not, you know, affecting, you know, any of the surrounding areas. So I think this board is definitely open to thinking outside the box. When it comes to this particular project, as Paul pointed out, the developer had come and wanted townhouses at one point and wanted, I don't know.
Senior housing.
You know, whatever. And again, because the town board never has to entertain a zone change, it was rejected outright. So recognizing that single-family homes, as we sat through the comp plan, that's what I was told. Everybody wanted single-family homes. So again, he did forego, in order to get it will be a condition of any approval that 1 lot, which is an acre, is not developed. Which again, if he developed within a right, he could, you know. So we are getting something that we would not otherwise get for it. So I think I said everything I need to say about it. We are doing, as far as the seeker, we're doing that right now, so you kind of jumped me to it. Okay, so going to the first item, it is actually a motion to adopt a negative declaration with respect to local law, so just to...
Can't hear?
We're doing it right now.
Well, it was prepared.
Yeah,
You
no,
had the documents prepared over months.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. This is just the resolution. If you go online, all the environmental forms are up there. The developer had planned one. Our building inspector reviewed it, and there's been multiple. It's all online. This tonight is just approving what we have and issuing a neg dev. So, you know,
Yes, it's all been done, and it's all online.
basically, the town is the lead agency, and there's been a Part 1 of the full environmental form that's been submitted, that's been online since, you know, it was dated August 2nd, 2024, and was just recently amended to reduce to the 13 lots from the 14. Then we had Parts 2 and 3 were reviewed by Jane Slavin, my building inspector's out there, and that's all online, so you can see it. So we all, you know, the town board took a hard look at all the potential environmental impacts, and what I think is interesting to remember is that the determination is not that the existing zone change doesn't have an impact versus nothing. It's basically as compared to the current zoning. So right now it's R80. We're saying that this change, it will not be a significant environmental impact. I just know people usually get confused with it's nothing versus the zone change, and that's not the case here. So, the town board hereby adopts the negative declaration, which is the next tier 2, which should be up online. And takes whatever steps are necessary to discharge the town board's responsibilities as a lead agency. So can I get a motion to adopt a negative deck?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 6 is a motion to, no, I'm sorry. Try to get out of here quicker. Number 4, amend the zoning classification. So again, just to point out that we did have 3 hearing dates, that we did refer it to the Rockland County Planning Board and to the Planning Board. The Rockland County Planning Board had reviewed the project, which again is required pursuant to the general municipal law, and had raised no objections to the proposed zone change, which is very rare, anyone who deals with the Rockland County Planning. They did make recommendations to do a traffic study, which of course was done, and I'm sure that this still has to go to the Planning Board, so there will be other studies required, I'm sure. And that obviously they said that all necessary permits from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers would be obtained. I don't know now that that lot is not being developed if there's still anything, but obviously if there is, they have to comply with that.
And I'm sorry, Supervisor, one of the comments was about, that we discussed was regarding the wetlands, and, you know, the board, as part of its review, had the applicant take out one of those lots where the wetlands were. So that was addressed as part of the board's review of this project. So I just wanted to point that out as well. Because that was one of the comments of county planning, and we could add that as to the resolution.
Yeah, and again, you know, this does have to still go to Planning Board, and of course, any development will be required to result in a zero net increase in stormwater runoff under our current guidelines. Again, this is conditioned specifically on the removal of that lot to only 13 homes. So I had been emailed, somebody was emailing me, you know, what happens, you know, if he sells the property, is it still subject to, this runs with the approval, so if he turns around tomorrow and sells it, whoever buys it has the same, this condition of approval. So we did find that it was consistent with the town's comp plan, which calls for maintaining the town's community and neighborhood character, which I think we can argue this does, while balancing the need for growth and development. So on the whole, can I get a motion to adopt, I guess is the word, let me find it. Adopt the local law amending the zone classification for those 3 lots. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. We're jumping to agenda number 5, amend resolution 2024-445, basically just to amend to take out the Tappan Park from this grant. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, number 6, we're going to combine and approve agenda items number 7 through 17, which again are all the liaisons and appointments to
Oh,
the
should we
different
wait
boards.
for Dan?
What's the matter?
Should we
Oh.
wait for Dan? I forgot about it.
Just in time, because we're doing 7 to 17 or something, so you didn't miss too many.
I'll make a motion to combine and approve 7 to 17.
7 through
Items 7
17.
to 17.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
18, a motion to approve the tax certiorari with the proceeding versus Carola Ventures, which is in Nyack. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 19, getting a motion to approve the installation of a street light at the intersection of Hunt Road and American Legion Post in Orangeburg.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's on the recommendation of the Traffic Advisory Board. And now we have the audit.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
It's a big one, huh?
Okay, the audit for tonight's meeting consists of 6 warrants for $13.6 million. Items of interest, number 1, Rockland Paramedics, $264,000 for January and February paramedic services. Number 3, Atlantic Salt, $93,000 for highway salt purchases. Number 5, County of Rockland, $309,000 for the Pearl River Campus pilot, and that's just a pass-through. And then number 7, Helmke Industries, $18,000 for Orangetown Housing Authority snow removal. Any questions on the audit?
I make a motion to approve the audit as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are going to go in executive session to discuss matters relating to personnel. We're not going to be voting when we come out. We do have a couple of adjournments in memory of. We have adjournment of Sylvia Barone, a resident of Pearl River, Helen Brady, a resident of Pearl River, and Carol Ann Rocca, a resident of Orangeburg. Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion to go into executive session and adjourn this meeting with no further discussion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.